Good evening. 3 friends caught driving at incredible rates of speed.
Police say speed was definitely a factor.
RCMP caught this Ford Fiesta speeding.
But police say they're waiting for you.
Speed is going to be a factor in this collision.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
I saw this in a movie about a bus that had to speed around the city.
You know how fast you were going?
65?
63.
I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
My name is Chris, and I'm breaking the law. How? Speeding. Why am I risking a $138 fine and not driving with the flow of traffic? To make a point about speed kills. ICBC, the cops, and the media all tell us that speed kills, and show us news story after news story about horrific late-night stupidity-fueled crashes, and then brand regular drivers who exceed the speed limit as deviant criminals. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should be able to go as fast as we want, or that speeding isn't necessarily dangerous, but many speed limits are set far too low for conditions, and that seems to be where the majority of the ticketing is. And thus, speed kills your pocketbook. By the way, for those of you not from British Columbia, ICBC is our local state-run insurance monopoly. That logo doesn't look very socialist. That's more like it. I want to start my argument here, on Marine Drive in Vancouver. It's a 6-lane isolated road with a divided center, and the limit is 50 kilometers an hour. That's 31 for you American viewers. For those of you out there that believe speeders get what they deserve, let me ask you this. How stupidly low does a speed limit have to be before you'll complain? The limit here is the same as nearby Commercial Drive, where it's only safe to do 50 a small fraction of the time. This limit makes sense. It's the fastest you can go under ideal conditions. Back on Marine Drive, the Vancouver police love hiding in the forest and nailing speeders here. They even brag about it on their Facebook blog. Traffic enforcement wrote 50-plus tickets on one stretch of Marine Drive over the weekend. What are your ideas of how to get people to slow down and obey speed limits? More enforcement? More education? Stricter penalties? Hey, VPD, if your method of improving road safety is soliciting internet comments, we're in trouble. Let's step back a second. We need rules on the roads. But if we're paying for these roads, we have the right to demand that these rules make sense. Stop at red lights? Makes sense. Slow around schools or urban areas? Also makes sense, if you actually like kids or people. Allowing politicians to set speed limits that don't reflect the road engineering, and then getting the police to fine and then publicly bitch about the speeders, doesn't make sense, and it reflects poorly on the province. Canada has some of the lowest highway speed limits of the industrialized world, and I want to be clear, I'm ranting about highways, roads with no pedestrians, intersections, etc. If you compare us to Germany, bear with me, where they have no speed limits on large portions of their highways, our vehicle fatality rate is over double per capita, almost double per 100,000 vehicles, and about 20% higher per billion vehicle miles traveled. I know what you're going to say, the Germans have more training, better cars, blah blah blah, and you might be right. But why don't we concentrate on that instead of lowering speed limits and fining people? The Germans don't have speed kills, possibly because the German word for speeding is so long that it won't fit on the screen of a German newscast. The German road safety program is called Runter vom Gas, which literally translates to down from the gas. I'll assume this isn't a fart joke or a Hitler reference, though with the Germans you're never quite sure. Their campaign targets all types of bad driving, and the only mention of inappropriate speed I could find is buried. My argument rests on 2 points. Point 1. The roads are safest when everyone's traveling at the same speed and in the same direction and paying attention. Point 2. This is from a report on BC speed limits prepared for the BC Ministry of Transportation by 2, probably not PE teachers, and whatever an EIT is. The majority of motorists drive at a speed they consider reasonable and safe for road, traffic, and environmental conditions. Posted limits, which are set higher or lower than dictated by roadway and traffic conditions, are ignored by the majority of motorists. This relates to something called the Solomon curve, which basically says that if traffic's flowing at a certain speed, the farther from the average a vehicle is traveling, the more dangerous it is. So, if the speed limit is below the upper limit of the safe majority, the people who do the speed limit become hazards to themselves and others. Or, in other words,
Have you ever noticed when you're driving that anyone who's driving slower than you is an idiot? And anyone driving faster than you is a maniac!
When speed limits are too low, you get a lot of tension on the road. For example, the passing lane. Most places have get out of the left lane laws, but what if the speed limits are too low? You have to be passing on the left, but you also have to obey the law, and it ends up being impossible to legally pass. Take this example. There's a vehicle in the left lane holding up traffic at 120 in a 100 zone. He's speeding, impeding traffic, and not moving out of the lane. And it's a cop. You know, if you're in a fully marked police car, you could at least pretend the law applied to you as well. But where do the current speed limits come from? Speed limits in North America were mostly set back in the day when cars had terrible handling, braking, and fuel mileage and really liked to explode.